Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Gamer here to give you another episode of my weekly Q&A titled The People's Questions, where I answer a series of questions that have been sent to me over the past week. This episode was relatively basic. I don't think I got any new people. There was a few questions I was able to answer in the comment section of the last video, as well as getting about 5 questions for this video, and all of them are regulars. And the last one, I must say, is pretty interesting because no one's ever asked me that type of question. So, yeah, I'm quite interested to get into that one. So, like always, before I start, if you guys happen to enjoy this episode of my weekly Q&A by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep track of me and all my future content, because I still have a lot more content to upload for the rest of August. So, starting off with the first question, coming from Knighted Slayer 666. And you want to know, if I could own any Final Fantasy summoning as a pet, what would it be and why? You know what? It's the why that really helps a lot of questions get into the video, so remember that tip. Without question, I think the one summoning I would want as a pet would be Bahamut, for specifically his variation in Final Fantasy X, and I'll tell you why. Not only is that like the coolest looking design, like overall, I think all of the Aeons in Final Fantasy X, without question, have my favorite design of any summonings. But I just like his posture. Some of you guys might not notice this, but when he's just standing there, he's always standing like this, with his arms crossed, like he knows he's a total badass. Plus, dude, could you imagine the cool posing pictures we could do together? I mean, imagine being back to back with Bahamut, and he's probably big enough to ride. Plus, he also has that really cool ring on his back. Like when he fires his when he fires his overdrive, it's kind of like an engine, and you can't help I'll tell you, every time he does that, I can't help but like in my mind like do the Kamehameha call, because that's what it feels like. It's just charging up in this powerful blast. But yeah, without question, Bahamut from Final Fantasy X would be something I would want as a pet. Unless he's old, unless he's a total badass too. Next question. This was interesting. Comes from Sinovic. And he wanted to know, why do I think Ryden went into the service after the events of Metal Gear Solid 4, and how do you think his family reacted? Here's the problem with that. It's this kind of question as for why I don't like to acknowledge Metal Gear Rising as official canon. I consider that personally to be more of a what if. Like, what if he went back? Because the explanation that they give is not very clear. It's like, oh, I couldn't stay away from the battlefield, which is a stupid reason, because it kind of, Metal Gear Rising as a whole kind of undoes everything that the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4 did. Because it pretty much pulls the whole thing that Star Wars The Force Awakens did, where it pretty much tells you that everything that happened in the original was pretty much for nothing, because the First Order was just going to rise anyway. I mean, so you beat the Empire, and then from the ashes of the Empire, the First Order comes. That's pretty much what Rising does. It's like, oh, with the fall of the Patriots, you know, this new order came, and it was even worse. And it's run by PMC, so that's why I don't like to acknowledge it. And it just doesn't make sense as for why he would intentionally leave his family. I mean, he went from being alone to getting Rose back, finding out he has a son. I just do not believe Ryden, or at least the Ryden by the end of 4, would, after everything that he had been through, would willingly leave his family. That's not Ryden. Whoever this guy, I mean, the guy in Rising is he's a cool character, but he's not the Ryden that I came to like. I mean, Ryden went from, because believe, if that was the Ryden I knew, he goes from a character that was rather pathetic in Metal Gear Solid 2 to a total badass in Metal Gear Solid 4 to just a horrible father and husband in Rising, to just say, oh, I can't be a family man anymore. I have to return to the battlefield. So yeah, that's why it probably wouldn't have gone very well, but that's why I don't view that as canon. But Ryden is still a cool game, but it's not canon to me. Next question comes from JBat, and this question is also one that's a little, I mean, it's straightforward, but I don't really know too much about it. but it comes from JBat, and you wanted to know, what do I think of Camino being destroyed in Star Wars The Bad Batch? I actually did not watch The Bad Batch at all. I'm staying away from Star Wars content for a while, so I heard that Camino got destroyed, so I guess that's unfortunate for the clones, but I'm assuming they're transitioning from clones to just regular people, so they wouldn't need to use clones anymore. So the best way to make sure no more clones get made is to destroy the place that has clones. So that's all I can say. I don't know what happens in the Bad Batch. I don't know anything that happens in it. But I did hear Camino got destroyed, so I don't know. Maybe it got blown up. I don't know. Maybe they got the Death Star built early and they blew up the planet. I don't know. I have no idea what are the details of Camino being destroyed. But if it got blown up, then that sucks because I really do like Camino. I'm a big fan of rain, so having a plant that rains that often I think is pretty cool. So yeah, that's unfortunate that it got taken out. And the last question of the episode I find interesting because I've never thought about this, but it comes from Virgil, the son of Sparta, and the question is, do I have a mail address or PO box? I would like to send you some stuff. That's interesting. I've never had anyone ask me if they wanted to send me anything. I mean, the last time I had outside of, I don't get gifts at all unless it's from my brother or his lovely wife. But when I think of just gifts from other people outside of him, I don't get sent anything. So I don't know. Is that something you're interested in? Really? I wonder if more people would be interested in that. I don't know, but yeah, message me again, and if you really would like me to establish a PO box, let me know, and I'll get right to that. Because heck, I would love to do that gives me the idea of doing cool unboxing videos. Because my friend Rachel does something like that. She calls it Rachel's Box, and she basically just unboxes all this stuff that a lot of these people like to send her. So I don't know, that might be fun to do. So yeah, keep me updated. Let me know again in the comments if that's something you or even anyone else is interested in doing. So that about does it for this episode of The People's Questions. I want to thank the 5 of you that managed to get your questions into the video, as well as everybody that sent in your questions that I answered in the comment section of the last video. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below to make sure you get them into me roughly before noon of Thursday before I start filming the next episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will catch you all next week.